Hey, welcome back to the Convo Couch fam. Don't forget about the onesies and twosies.
Hooah!
See, fam, I'm wearing this shirt right now. I look slim, I look slender, I look built. This is a shirt I couldn't wear because the belly was pushing it out. It's already kind of tight on the shoulders, but since I'm losing all this weight over here, fam, with this high vegan diet, sprinkle a little workout, sprinkle a little lift, a little total gym here and there, and now you get to wear these shirts again. Woo! I feel like Sean Penn holding on to his Oscar, trying to flex and show the muscles like, this is for you, Voldemort Zelensky. By the way, fam, this is an award right here. Now, you know me, I'm not big on awards. I think they're bullshit. You know, even when people, this award-winning journalist and this award-winning documentarian, I think sometimes it's full of shit. Who's giving the award?
It is full of shit.
Not all the time.
Why am I echoing? Did you hear me?
Do you have
on your end? No, it's not on my end. Okay.
Do you have?
Okay, it's gone.
Oh, it's gone. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have your YouTube on or anything else on with volume in there and that's on the screen?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Sometimes sometimes it's maybe legit, but this is legit. All right. Okay. So this is from us, fam. This is the Top Streamers Award for the Convo Couch and from the Indie Media Award.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not big on awards, but this is something that Indie Media has been doing. I've had it on the desk all week. That he's trying to create a culture in a way and be like, screw these assholes. We don't need any of this shit. We have our own thing. So this is kind of like a Mensch award. Now, Mensch, fam, is the word in Yiddish for good guy, good person, good friend, that kind of thing. So I like the fact that he's kind of sending this message that we don't need their awards. We can do our own thing. We can do our own citizen journalist and we can thrive. So I'm very appreciative that he sent this over because this is more of like a heart personal thing than it is an actual award, as opposed to the Nobel Peace Prize, which they gave to Barry Barack Obama, and then he continued to bomb like 7 countries.
Yeah, I mean, I think awards are subjective depending on who somebody likes. And there's one award that was ruined because it was given to somebody that was literally not deserving of the award and made a joke out of it.
Yeah.
But
this award, fam, I go like this.
Hooah!
The Nobel Peace Prize that they want to go to Zelensky, I go to. Ooh, sorry, fam.
Yeah, I will never forgive certain people for pushing that really bad decision. So
we have a loaded show today, fam.
I'm happy for our
We have a loaded show today, fam.
We do have a loaded show, and I was just going to say I'm happy that Indy decided to do that very nice, thoughtful thing for everybody, and I thought it was very nice. Yes, I agree, fam, 100%.
Sorry to step on your toes there as you were thanking him. Thank you, Indy. I want to echo what fam just said. Guys, thank you to all the people who helped out with Patreon, people who have still been putting into our Brazil account, because that shit is still going on as far as the recovery stage. We're still paying attention. We're still talking to people back over there. We'll be minding what's going on as that goes along. And thank you so much for guys who somebody just put some love in there. Thank you so much. It was really helping out. Somebody else mailed something, fam, to the studio. This right here that came in. Guys, if you want to send anything to the studio, anything physical, you can do so. We have a little mailbox area over here. So Ruth sent something a couple weeks ago. It got here. Thank you so much. And then a lot of other people. Mariah Myers has sent peaches here. Peaches that I used on pizza. 10120 Southeastern Avenue, number 228, and that's in Henderson, Nevada, 89052. For some of you who are going, ew, you're in Henderson. No, it's on the border of Henderson in Nevada. It's a very nice place. 10120 Southeastern Avenue.
It's on the border of Henderson and Nevada?
Henderson and Vegas, excuse me.
Okay. I was confused.
This is the work of a lunatic.
But we have a lot of things to go over today, fam, so let's not stand on ceremony because there's a lot of shit going on. And speaking of that word shit libs, fam. Listen,
nice transition.
Even though I started putting this in the doc, this was more about getting your opinion and what you have to say on this, because I know you can eloquently put this so nicely. You've been like attacked way more than me for going after Sandy. And, we've been critical of the squad here. I mean, listen, we all had hopes. There's the whole picture of me and AOC when I went to the campaign over there. We saw her on Jimmy Dore. She seemed really like potential in there for the first initial wave of progressives going in, right? To go on and take the establishment. But instead of taking on the establishment and bringing Nancy Pelosi to her knees, she bent the knees and called her mama bear.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm handing it over to you.
Oh, well,
what more do I have
well,
to say? That's
I
it.
don't know what else to say about her. I mean, what else do I say? I'm sick of her complaining. I'm sick of her whining. She's a narcissist. She makes everything about her. There's a lot of people like her in media in general, independent or not. And I hate people like that. She's fake. I hate that. I think the most. The world revolves around Sandy. And I don't know what else to say beside she was the biggest mistake the progressive contingent made. I think more so than Sanders because she is tackling other generations, the younger generations, right? So she's brainwashing them. That's her job. And, I think we were so hopeful that we gave her and others the benefit of the doubt and really overlooked things that were problematic from the beginning. It's like they took like a Latina that worked as a bartender like me, and they literally she was part of a CIA. I feel like she was part of a CIA ruse to label her that way, not talking about her other jobs and her other connections. And that's how they got people, right? Oh, she's a Bernie supporter. She was really involved. No, she wasn't. By all accounts, she wasn't largely involved at all. She was barely involved, and she was able to go to that group and try to like get them, and she did. So there's really not much else to say except that at this point, if you are supporting Democrats, and there's no difference between her and Nancy Pelosi at this point, because they all go fund Nazis in Ukraine. They vote for more war. They vote to have a bigger surveillance state to censor people. So if you're really supporting those people, you're at this point, pretty much doing the work for the establishment, for the national security state apparatus, which I think is who they work for. Technically, I don't believe that we have a country in the United States. I believe we have a military national security state apparatus. And people like David Serrata are just progressive enough to get people to follow him, right? With the movie Don't Look Up and all this crap. But they don't actually ever want to demolish the establishment, because the establishment is what feeds him and what feeds people like him, people like Ryan Grimm, people like that work at The Intercept. These are progressives that are basically replicating the already existing mainstream media status that exists there, but they're just basically rebranding it as better, even though it's exactly the same thing, the same hierarchical structure, the same type of bullshit. And really, that's how they trick people. And it's no longer about opposing the anti-establishment crowd, but co-opting it. You attract more bees with honey, fam. You love saying that, right?
Yeah, and that's great. That's what it's about. Could you say that last sentence one more time? What it's about more than anything? It's not about appeasing. It's about co-opting. And
co-opting, yeah.
Well, that's what's on my mind, because we were talking the other day. You said, fam, they're still doing it. They're still going to the Bernie things in LA. These same people are still behind Bernie as if he's okay. And I'm like, wow, holy shit. How much does a guy have to betray you before you eventually say, hey, no more, let me walk away? But I often think about this in the sense of leaders versus followers. Like, all right, a lot of the followers, what's on their mind? I think a lot of it has to do with the sense of narcissism that they're not addressing. Really, that's about themselves, that they're being virtuous, that they're doing, they're the bleeding hearts, that they're helping, minorities, and they're helping the less unfortunate. But the whole time they're following these leaders. And I can only say at this point, like, I mean, I don't know if David Serrata is trying to save face with shit like this. Quick reminder that a narrowly divided Democrats' U.S. House would let us really see the Congressional Progressive Caucus and the squad would change tactics and actually leverage power to do things. Would be an interesting test. Like, are they just trying to save face, fam, because they went so far and now they can't just, it's about themselves and they got to keep going? Or do they consciously know what they're doing? Because I look at people like Peter Dow, right? And Peter Dow is not in the same space that Sirota is. And I've always looked at David Sirota as somebody way more advanced and smart and nuanced than Peter Dow. But here's Peter Dow now, just, and then once again, there's little nitpicky things, and I'm not 100% trusting Peter Dow. But why
I don't
David
at all.
Sirota's still there? Is he part of this shit, or is he just one of those leaders trying to save face? Because when you say AOC, CIA, that ain't conspiracy theorist shit anymore. Every single move she's made, plus the receipts and heading back to where she's at, it just definitely seems like she's a psyop. But Sirota, right? What is he? Where's he at? What type of leader?
I think he just comes from the elite journalist type of background, right? Like it's like these people that have somehow, it's all about their career, it's all about making themselves these renowned people, getting all these awards and stuff. That's what drives them. What drives them isn't about like really doing a public service or the truth or anything. Like, we are actually going to remove the system. I think they are so bought into this. I don't think he's necessarily some operative or anything. I do think he's just one of these people that is about his career and is about protecting what he has, and he doesn't know any better, because there's a difference. And I saw one of our colleagues, Camilla, just talking about, somebody accused her of getting paid all this stuff. And she's like, I work like 3 jobs as a journalist to like make ends meet and do all these different jobs. And it's like people who come from that background, that working class. And I've had this conversation many times with many different journalists. I had it with Wyatt, who didn't come from like going to college. He went at it like literally just hands on. And you're the same way, right? Yeah. You didn't necessarily, you went to like a couple of years of college, but it's like like these people come from like this very intellectual era. And I'm not saying I'm against people going to school. I went to school as well, and I studied media and I studied English and I did all these things, but there's a certain group of people that look down. And like, I think for me, one of the things that was life changing was going to work in the service industry. Yeah, because I wanted to, because I was like, this is just going to help make it easier. And people were like, why the hell would you do that? Why would you want to do that? Like this is like uncouth of you. You have a degree. Why would you do that? And it's that idea that you're better than somebody else because you have some sort of degree, which is a piece of paper. Because I learned so much more doing the work we've done than I ever did in school. Yeah. And I think in that way, it's almost like, wow, like, yes, you learn things in school, your mind expands in some ways intellectually, but like there is so much expansion you have when you go to these countries, when you talk to different people, and these people who sit back and think they know everything because they sit on their chairs and they read books and they think that that's just going to fill them up and they're going to know about humans and human beings and everything else. They are very arrogant and they don't go to these places. And I think that's, if you have, David Sirota could afford to go to these places. He could. There's no excuse. And as I've had this conversation with several of my friends, traveling could be expensive, but when you make it your priority, you can make it happen. And I've done that since I was in college. Yeah. And so that was always my priority. I didn't care how much debt I had. I didn't care. I wanted it to be my priority because to me, your mind expands when you go to these places and meet people.
And the thing about it is too, is when you go there, it's not like you just go there for 12 days, you come back, you know everything about the region. You look at our WhatsApp. The education continues. We have all these people that we met there that were communicating, that are there in Nicaragua, in Honduras, that we're communicating with on a regular basis. So the education keeps going nowadays with unfortunately, the State Department is probably looking at every single fucking message, but it sucks. But the education continues when you go to these places. I learned more about Nicaragua after I left Nicaragua than when I was in Nicaragua. Yeah, I got a sense of the people and get to talk to people. And that's also something that's really valuable, I think, too, as well, which a lot of these people when you talk to the David Sirotas and you see a lot of these other people, and anybody who like talks about, like, like even the people who study the Marxism, right? Like the real Marxism and stuff. Sometimes those people aren't the best people. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the service industry for us and our experiences help so much. Like, me, I'll go up to anybody and start talking to them and have a conversation and open up to them. Understand is that I've got the opportunity to learn about people, and all the policy that we're looking at and everything that's talked about is policy to move and direct people. But if you don't ever have a good understanding of people, I don't care what you learn in a book. Sometimes it just won't equate because you're not in touch with the human side of people. And that's what we need to understand, is that it has to be equal amount. So even though I come to this thing very attached to the human side, I understand there's the book side now, the education side. I got to beef that up a little bit, but there has to be a way of a balance between the two. And I feel sometimes that a lot of these people who are kind of talking about policy are not in touch with the human element as much as they need to be,
and they're talking about poor people too, right? They're talking about
they've never been poor, right?
And they've never been poor. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but if you've never had to like scramble money for rent, it's kind of hard for me to take you seriously about like oh my God, I care about poor people, blah blah blah. Like you're sitting on some good money. I'm not saying your opinion can't be valued upon other things, but when it's just a lot of these people tend to pontificate on what is best for the working class, but they have never actually endured this. Yeah. And when you've worked like 3 jobs to try to make ends meet, you have a very different perspective as to like, or eating beans or ramen because, you were saving money for rent. It's like, okay, there's a whole different aspect of that than when you're just coming at it from an intellectual point of view. And, not to say that people who are wealthy can't in some ways be, understanding, but nothing really replicates that experience. And then maybe when you do have money, you think differently. When you have worked in a service industry and someone, screws up your order and like gives you terrible service, you're like, well, maybe it was the kitchen, maybe they're having a bad day, maybe you don't just scoff at somebody. And I literally can tell so much about people by how they treat people who like, the retail people, service industry people, anybody that is doing these jobs that are, hard work, like physical labor rather than intellectual labor. And I think that says a lot about a person.
Yeah, that's like damned if you do, damned if you don't when you go out to the service industry, right? Like, so there's a lot of girls that always pay attention how much tip the guy leaves to make sure they're not, jipping the waitress or the waiter, you know what I'm saying? And how they act with that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've been on a lot of Tinder dates before where they're looking at me like that. And I'm like, all right, I already know this one. Oh, you left a generous tip. That's very nice of you. Yeah, because it's in the service industry. But yeah, anyways, I don't want to sit here and blab about this, fam. We got to talk about your favorite, Ken Klippenstein.
Oh, God.
Feel like it should be a bigger story that the squad is gaining 3 members, fam.
Oh, God. Who are these members? These neoliberals? One young man from Florida who's literally like a liberal. That I'm sure that's one of the ones he's talking about. He's like under 25 or something. Who, if it was anybody of value, okay, what do these people consider 3 members of like, as if this is a good thing? These people have done shit for you. They haven't done anything. What are you celebrating? I mean, they have to invent something to celebrate, I feel.
Because this is the thing, is that they had no help, fam. And I'm sorry, I just got to pull this up because I was supposed to put this one first. All 6 members of the squad easily achieved re-election, and then they have new members too coming as well. And you got the picture, all 6 members of the squad, AOC, you got Bauman, which he's just a fraud, fake, Ayanna Presley,
AIPAC.
Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush, and here come the new members, fam. Dun, 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 dun.
Just Democrats.
Summer Lee and Greg Cesar. And there's Charlie Murphy.
Summer Lee's Pennsylvania. I remember several Bernie supporters supporting her a while back. So she made her way up. She was something else before. She was in another different position before. I can't remember now.
Well, she was part of the state legislation, I believe. So, I mean,
yeah, you're right.
She was part of the state, and I have some stuff over here, fam. But please, your opinions about this whole idea, because this was the talk. This is what we heard. The squad right now, they got a plan. Nina Turner, right? They got a plan. You can't mess with them. They got a plan. And they're going in there. They don't have enough backing. They don't have enough people, which bullshit, because that's what Force the Vote was all about, right? Like, let's get these guys to go in there and do, but they didn't want to use their leverage. Now, fam, with 3 new members, you got leverage. No? I mean, is this something now that they're going to use to dupe the friggin' whatchamacallits, the progressives?
I'm looking forward to the next tweet by these two. Oh my God, I thought that they were going to use their leverage. Bad squad. It's boring. This is what they do time after time after time, guys. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
I want to make sure that since Jackie, is that her name? What's her name? She's been the
are you really putting this person's tweet up?
She's the shit lib of the month. We have to make sure, because this one, you know what I'm saying? 2022 election results, the current squad, Ilhan Omar, look at the percentages they won by: 75%, 71, 85, 73, 64.
They're in, like, first of all, we don't know if our elections are accurate, but let's just say they are. They're in the Democrat district.
Yeah. New members of the squad: Summer Lee, 55%, Greg Cesar, 73%, Maxwell Frost, 59%, fam. So, I mean, I know that, but shit libs of the month, got to get in there. Here is the new squad member, Summer Lee, fam. And I have this article, but I also wanted to see, like, what she was about. So I do have her Twitter page as well, so we can also peek at that. But let's take a look at new Summer Lee. This is the new member of the squad, fam. We should be rejoicing over here. No? Okay. Nothing from the new squad members. No new hope. No nothing. Let's get it nice and big. Shut up. Summer Lee is exactly what a Democrat should be, fam. A super PAC is smearing Lee as a threat to the Democratic Party as she campaigns to become the first Black woman to represent Pennsylvania in Congress. And this was on May 13th, 2022. So they were already setting the table. Summer Lee, a Democratic legislator with a track record of winning tough elections and backing fellow Democrats in critical races, faces supremely cynical assault as she seeks her party's nomination for an open U.S. House seat in Tuesday's Pennsylvania primary, in which she won. A multi-million-dollar media campaign against Lee, paid for donors that frequently back Republicans, is smearing the 34-year-old state representative as a threat to the Democratic Party who doesn't merit a place on the ballot line. Okay, so fam, they've already set the table, right? Here, look what she's all about. So you know. So they say she's being attacked by Republicans. Remember, this is back in May. And look at the shit she stands for. The attacks are wildly wrong-headed. Lee is exactly what a Democrat should be at a moment when voters are demanding that the parties deliver fundamental change. Lee is a dynamic grassroots campaigner who argues that we can liberate ourselves through organizing. She's advocates for popular programs, including a Green New Deal and Medicare for all. She's willing to call out the compromises of both major party, yet is irresolute about Democrats prevailing in 2022 midterm elections that have become a battle over the future of democracy.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Man, the table was set. The table was set for this one.
So she's backed Democrats constantly, but she yells the quick go-to words of Medicare for all and Green New Deal. So she's amazing. They wouldn't be writing articles about how great she is if she was actually a threat to the establishment, guys. They just wouldn't. And anybody who backs Democrats literally and to save democracy is going to be a status quo. She is. The article's correct. She is exactly what a Democrat should be, because that is what a Democrat is. They're just fucking gonna regurgitate these talking points of Green New Deal and Medicare for all, but they will never actually fight to get you healthcare. And the Green New Deal will be filled with giveaways to giant corporations, to privatization, to implement more surveillance, more control, like what we've been talking about with the Great Reset, right? It's not going to be anything that's actually going to tackle the problems we have. It's just going to be a bunch of bullshit. And of course, pro-war, notice they never talk about foreign policy ever, which is what should be your number one when you're electing somebody to Congress that's going to vote on bills to fund Nazis in Ukraine. But the progressives have notoriously ignored foreign policy, notoriously. So they never talk about that.
I just got to send something really quick. Fam, I don't know if you know this too as well, because it's so crazy. And I don't know why I just thought about it right now as well. Never talk about foreign policy, never talk about anything. Green New Deal, right? Green New Deal. Brennan.
They don't even know what it is. They don't even know what it is.
No, because it's just a virtue signal. But Brennan has been talking about geoengineering. Pretty much, I don't know if you know this. Biden signed something the other day, talked about it. For just a tenth of what it cost to Ukraine war, we can fund geoengineering for 1 year, said Brennan. Like literally, like, you know what I'm saying? So now it's like all this shit's coming out. I want to see what these people have to say who will push the Green New Deal. People like Summerlee. And you're right, fam. If you go to her Twitter, there's nothing about the war. She does talk about veterans, virtue signals about veterans. We have an outreach program, but don't talk about the fact that we got a war going on. Nothing speaking about that. It does seem like a lot of virtue signal. I do like the fact that she had a job fair up, come get a job, but she's also pushing mail-in ballots like fucking crazy.
Of course
She even has a video out there about mail-in ballots. You know what I'm saying? So she has done some work inside the community, but you can see there's some other interesting things. Power CEO help with something. So I haven't looked into that company, but it does seem like their typical November is National Diabetes Day. Yeah, well, why don't you go after the pharmaceutical fucking companies who are making sure insulin's so expensive? Yeah. Vote by mail. You know, she seems like the typical freaking Democrat out there, fam. Yeah. There's going to be no difference. No difference in her than anybody else.
And any of these people. Because Cynthia McKinney talked about this when she came on our show. That is their job. That is the point of these people like the squad. Their point isn't to just give you, the same exact thing the Democrats are giving you verbally. It's only about verbal. It's not about in action. In action, they're the same. But verbally, and every now and then they'll give a little vote here, but then the other one will come back and vote, against it. This is what they did. They voted for the expansion of the. They voted for Israel to fund the
Israel
Iron Dome in Israel. They voted for the Ukrainian to give funds to Ukraine,
Capitol
and
Police.
Of course to support the war, to expand the Capitol Police.
Some of them voted for like sanctions against Cambodia because they're starting shit up over there. You know what I'm saying? They're not being nice to our factory people over there. So here's some of her bills, fam. Ending charging of children as adults, law enforcement, deadly force, establishing a fair tax plan, Dignity for Incarcerated Women Act, Black History Month, Martin Luther King Day of Service, Working Families Tax Credit for Pennsylvania, establishing a fair tax plan, the Crown Act, which is the Hair Type and Hairstyle Discrimination Act. So she's got all she's got all the things that the ending prison gerrymandering. I mean, I'm not saying like some of these are important, but there's, once again, there's no mention of the evildoers and going after the people who really mean things. Like, she's not attacking all big business or anything. And
no, and these things are really, you have to really dive deep to see if it's actually something tangible or if it's just like a virtue signal that never goes through, right? Yeah. Because most of the time it's the latter.
Yeah. By the way, just so you know really quick, there are other members of the squad. I want to just peek at them. I don't want to spend too much time on this one because I don't think there's going to be much difference. But just so we know that we name these people who they are, fam, don't get upset. Fam's like, oh, these people.
I'm just they're just I don't even want to pay.
I know, but we gotta mention who they are because when
these
people, because when these people who have been like, oh, these members of the squad, when they have these things, by the way, there's still a democracy watch on the bottom over there, like literally still counting. I don't know if you caught me, fam, on my first opening statements to Peter. It was like, Peter, I don't know, and this is fam. I don't know if I told the audience I was on Crosstalk twice, 2 weeks in a row. But this one, Dennis Kucinich was there, right? And there was also a Republican strategist, which was cool. But the first thing I said to Peter, I said, Peter, I don't know if we was wise to have a post-election show 2 days after the American elections, because we got to wait about 4 or 5 days before we get some post results over here. And we laughed hysterically, and we showed the newspaper. And on the bottom, this is all live, still looking at elections still going on. AOC and the squad set to welcome new members after progressive wins in multiple states. I'm just going to, instead of a group of far left Democrats in the House, but just so you don't forget, ladies,
far left,
just so you don't forget the bullshit that Fox plays too. Far left, far right, neo-fascist, radical left. Just stop.
The radical left.
Just stop. You got a bunch of consuming friggin' red and blue people that order Postmates and drink Meisterbrow. It ain't no far left shit, far right shit. It's such small. These are just fellow Americans who think differently, that have different ideologies. A group of far left Democrats in the House, known as the Squad, is likely to grow into the next Congress by as many as 10 members after a midterm election handed wins to 4 new progressive left lawmakers. Oh, fam, the Marxists under the bed. They're not even Marxists. They're just cultural bullshit. The Squad was founded by 4 Democratic women in 2019. Representative AOC of New York, Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts, who is equivalent to, what's her name? Elizabeth Warren. Nothing really leftist hardcore about these people at all. Rashida Tlaib of Michigan. The group added 2 new members after the 2020 election, Cori Bush of Missouri and Jamal Bowman of New York. Notice, ladies and gentlemen, Cori Bush, who talked about all this stuff about not funding the Ukraine war and then voted to fund the Ukraine war, right? Remember who she replaced. I remember the dude's name, but he was the dude talking out against foreign policy when Max Blumenthal caught him in the halls, and then he stopped. But he opened his mouth, and the next thing you know, he was shown the door. Last night's midterm election, which appears to have fallen short of the GOP hopes for a Republican wave, is also likely to expand the Squad's influence among Democrats. Squad bends the knee to the Democrats. They walk in lockstep. All 6 current Squad members easily won their races on Tuesday, and at least 4 members are likely to be added to the progressive group. I wanted to show this article because I wanted to show the fear-mongering of the right bullshit. They have no say. AOC and Chuck Schumer are running the place. Greg Cesar of Texas held the Democrat seat in Texas and was up 72-27 with 92% of the vote in. And Ocasio-Cortez endorsed Cesar in January and said Texas working families deserve a progressive Democrat like Greg who will show up and fight for them. Cesar campaign website describes him as a movement organizer who supported working families from the San Antonio Hayes of County to the East Austin. You knew that if there was going to be a Squad member in Tejas, fam, you know where it was coming from, Austin. The proud son of Mexican immigrants, Greg has passed his policies to protect families from being separated, border stuff, raise wages for thousands of workers, and successfully fought to expand civil rights protections. His site says, why don't leftists understand, fam? And I'm going to just get off that for 2 seconds so you can get on it. Why don't leftists or progressives or shit libs or anybody who's serious about finances, who's serious about serious economic gains for the working class, ever talk about NAFTA, ever talk about bringing jobs back home, ever talk about creating jobs here in the States that will fix shit, make shit, do stuff? They never really talk about the fundamentals of how we're going to get money. They just scream that they want to have people at Starbucks, go and organize, and then all of a sudden, have them get a better wage.
Fam, because they wouldn't be in Congress if they did any of that. Like, if they actually shook the system, like they said that she was going to do, right? Like, bring down the House, buck the system, shake whatever the hell she said. Like, if they were real about it, they wouldn't be in power. They would be pushed out. They would be smeared and then pushed out, just like Cynthia McKinney was smeared and pushed out, just like anybody that was worth a damn was painted as some sort of crazy lunatic Russian propagandist, you name it. Like, that's what they do. And that's why they play ball, some of them, and I think some of them are assets. And I think AOC is an asset. I don't think Cori Bush was an asset. I think she was an activist that was genuine and believed in what she believed. But I think she bought into it. She got co-opted. Money changes people. They're at a different bracket now. They're making money.
Yeah.
It does have an effect as well on a lot of things. So I think that's a huge part of it. And I just think it's complete bullshit and totally bogus.
Well, I mean, my biggest beef with her was the election stuff. That was kind of messed up. And yeah,
Yeah, of course.
I kind of felt the same way too. I was more excited about Cori Bush getting into Congress than anybody else. And then also what happened at the Capitals with the bullshit with the housing, she knew better than that shit. Maxwell Frost is the other member, the third member. He's expected to win his race. Okay. It's time for poor and working class and young people to have a seat at the table. I always love that one. Frost website says, as a first generation Z member of Congress from day one, I will fight to end gun violence. So there he is.
Right.
Win Medicare for all, transform our racist criminal justice system, and end the climate crisis. As a national organizer with the ACLU, and we know where they're at nowadays, I push Joe Biden to agree to abolish the Hyde Amendment, the act that has limited abortion access for millions of people, his site says. So
there's no economics.
No.
It's all social justice without any sort of economic backing, which literally puts your social justice issues on the floor. And that's all you have to do. I could literally go run a race as a Democrat if I just said all these points and sold out and said, hey, I'm going to get, small dollar donations, because that was Bernie's fault. They took what Bernie did, and now they're all doing it. Oh, we take from poor people and sell them this gigantic mantra that we're going to fight for them and this and that. We say the key points and the key words, and everybody just comes to us and doesn't really spot our grift. And that's precisely what they're doing. And I think it's more nefarious than even what the neoliberals do, and then what the Republicans do, because you can kind of know where those people stand. But the progressives are basically working for the neoliberals, for the establishment. They're just dangling carrots. So that's where it's at.
Like we said, our revolution has that whole fam. Now they're just endorsing the shit lips. This is the second person in charge in case anything happens to Biden, which is already a thing, right?
Yeah, can we just watch this woman for a second?
Of course.
I'll have what she's having.
Fam, let me just put it on the big screen real quick. We'll play it real quick. Guys, you know what to do. Come on, do us a favor, like, share. We got a decent amount of people on Rockfin. We got about 40. Let's get that up. Share that number, fam. Share that Rockfin. Share the Rumble, everybody. All our fams out there, please. 15 watching over there, and we got a couple hundred. Where we at? We're almost at 300 on the YouTubes. Guys, thank you for making this happen. You know the deal. Here's Kamala Harris, fam's favorite vice president.
I love Venn diagrams. I really do. I love Venn diagrams. It's just something about those three circles and the analysis about where there is the intersection, right? Yeah, I see people that you agree with me, right? So I asked my team, I brought props. I love Venn diagrams. I really do. I love Venn diagrams. It's just something about those three circles and the analysis about where there is the intersection, right? Yeah, I see people that you agree with me, right? So I asked my team, I brought props.
Yes, I did play it twice, fam, because it needed to be played twice. But yes, that is Kamala Harris, ladies and gentlemen. Your thoughts?
Second in line for the presidency after this guy. And I want to play this guy too. So before we, because this is important. So she's second in line to this guy. Okay.
Biden's being Biden's being extremist. Biden's being Biden's being extremist.
You're leaders of the free world, ladies and gentlemen. Every day is a joke. It's another gaffe. Every day in clown world. I don't know what else to say about that. Biden's obviously not in charge of anything. He can barely speak. Putin's not going to be at the G20 summit, so don't worry. There's not going to be that confrontation.
Oh, he's
Lavrov
not
is
going
going.
now? Oh,
No,
Lavrov
he's
is
not
going.
going.
So what do you got here, fam, to end up the section?
Yeah. So just to say, I mean, I hate to say I told you so, guys, but
Oh, yeah,
the
the
federal
student
judge
loan.
ruled that Biden's plan to cancel hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars in student loan debt is unconstitutional and must be vacated, Reuters. So I said that basically, guys, this was planned. You can pretend that they didn't do this on purpose. The timing, guys, the timing. The midterms are done, primaries, went by. Now it's like the midterms are fully done and it's November, and then you have 2 more years until they dangle another carrot in front of you so that you can say, well, at least Joe Biden is going to give us student debt relief. No, he's not. And then they never were going to. They know the rules. You think these people don't know what they're doing? They needed to use it as a fundraising mechanism, and we called it here on the show. And it's like, it sucks because I could have used that. A lot of us could have used that, and I still think people should try to make it through. But Republicans also went at it, and they were like, blah blah blah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it
Well,
was just
the whole thing is,
it's nothing. $10,000 in student debt. Most people have over 100,000. We have a whole generation in debt. Like, I don't care what
yes.
you think of the money and all this bullshit. Like, we just give billions and billions away for war. Like, I'm sorry, I don't. This is the one thing I don't like play nice with people who are like, well, we can't spend that much money. We spend that much money all the time on useless shit. So yeah, like it's just, I had zero hopes that it was actually gonna get through.
Reparations for the people who built this country, right? Like this, it's an economic thing. We spend money all the time giving all these countries dollars and cents, a lot to Israel, a lot to these other countries.
Yeah.
Why don't we give some money to the people who built this country? This is the reparations argument. It's actually an economic argument. You know what I'm saying? American descendants of slaves, they didn't get paid for the work they've done. We pay all this other shit out there. And the libertarian argument of well, who's going to pay for it is not so much about, well, I think a lot of leftists go, well, that's just bullshit. We pay for other things. They're like, no, we want to understand. We want transparency on every dollar spent, where you're pulling it from, what's going on, because we know that in any program you have, you're going to exploit money and you're going to extort money for yourselves. So that's what they said. And the conservative argument is, I'm talking about for the practical conservative. What are the people who didn't go to college? What are the people who went to trade school and this other thing? What about the people who do pay off that thing? Why don't we find something for them? I respect those arguments more than the leftist argument or the leftist whole plan of, we're going to get the student loan for you and then have it pulled from you. They lied. He knew it's like the marijuana thing, fam. The marijuana law he signed, the executive order. Nobody is sitting in jail for marijuana on federal charges for marijuana alone. So zero. Margaret Kimberly made a tweet about it. 0 people got let out of jail from his executive order. Of course. It's all a scam.
But pasta to that, I never see the right say, well, we should just give people this. They just flat out say no, because I worked hard and you shouldn't. And because you didn't work hard, then
fam,
blah, blah, blah.
You're not hanging with enough America first people. That's your problem.
Okay, well, I don't see it. And again, like, I don't see the same emphasis on paying for war from even some libertarians that I see for this stuff. I mean, that this thing really just, they came really hard at it when $10,000 is a fraction of what people have. And it's just never done with that level of passion.
Yeah.
It's because they view it as a handout. It's like, not a handout. It would actually be better for the economy for people to have more money to spend, to put into the economy, rather than
I don't want to
not have that money.
I don't want to stand here and stick up for and speak for conservatives, because fam, I think they have their own civil war going on now since this election. Really quick, because we need some information over here. We need some help. But I don't know if you know about this, fam. There seems to be a civil war brewing between America First Republicans, conservatives. That's the Donald Trump there, and I know some people, they don't like the term America First. That's what they want to call themselves. I think that's more of a message. I like that message better, that term America First, better than Patriot, because America First is just specifically saying we're not establishment Republicans. We're not for the corporate. That's what they're saying when they say America First. But anyways, lines have been drawn. A lot of people have been coming, and I think the mainstream media has been trying to make this whole thing that Donald Trump lost big on election night. I think he endorsed 220 candidates. I think 19 of them didn't get elected. But Carrie Lake is obviously one of those America First candidates, and she's kind of been mentioning from DeSantis' speech the other day, this slow roll. As you know, fam, the way they count the votes can really kind of manipulate the narrative. And if they count certain sections first, they can have a high Democrat lead.
Mhm.
And eventually, when they get to the Republican counting in those areas, the Republicans can then take the lead. That's what Carrie Lake is banking on. But she's going to mention Ron DeSantis here. Take a look at this, fam. I'm going to mute us up. This is Carrie Lake throwing blows at DeSantis. And then we had the whole email from Donald Trump go out saying that DeSantis wouldn't have won unless I sent this stuff down to stop the steal in Florida. It was me. So it's very, very interesting. So, hey, check this out. And let's take a look at Carrie Lake.
What I think they're doing is slow rolling our victory. They want to take the air out of this movement, and they can't do it because it's a movement, and we, the people, are fed up, and we're not going to slow down. We're not going to let them take the fire out of our belly. And so they slow roll the results. You know, Ron DeSantis goes out, gives his big speech, and then they want to make it look like the Trump Republicans don't have a chance. We do. We're going to win. I'm 100% sure of that. I think that Blake may even win with the look of what is left to be counted.
Yeah.
These votes are going to go Blake's way as well. And so they just want to control the narrative. And they can do that by how quickly they release results.
Yes.
What I think they're doing is slow rolling our victory. They want.
You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
I know my thing got stuck there. I'm sorry. There's the first blow, right? You know, out of the gate, they're talking about what they're trying to do. They're trying to manipulate. I think lines are being drawn in the sand, fam. It's kind of interesting because a lot of people are like DeSantis or Trump. DeSantis or Trump. So that's what's going on. You know, and that's what I'm saying. Some people in the chat are saying that America First is a KKK slogan. Have you ever heard that shit, fam?
No, I haven't heard, but I mean, I think the slogan is, you could get a better slogan than that.
That's what they chose, man.
The United States is an empire, blah, 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 you know? Yeah, but that's what they chose. That's, their prerogative. It is what it is.
I'm going to mute real quick. Now, this is on Fox. This is the theory that this is now Ron DeSantis' party. And fam, on an email chain, and this is from a lot of the doctors I know that I speak to about COVID and stuff, they've been talking about the same thing too as well, because they want to understand like who's going to be the next leader. If it's not Joe Biden, what are they working with? Everything that's going on. So they've been having the same discussion. Is this the DeSantis' party? Let's take a look real quick.
Is DeSantis the future of the Republican Party?
It happens that I have a piece out on the on the Fox website saying exactly that.
Oh, I didn't copy
Trump,
it.
No, is the future of the party. Why? As you say, Ron DeSantis is the winner. He didn't just win Florida. He completely wiped away Democrat opposition in Florida. It was an incredible win, not only statewide, but in Miami-Dade County, which I got to check on this. 7 points went for Biden in 2020. Palm Beach County, 13 points Biden win in 2020. And basically DeSantis won both of those counties very well. Also, I love the headline in the Post that you mentioned, because young is the operative word, okay? I think both parties are looking for a transition to the next generation. In the Republican Party, I think DeSantis is now de facto the leader. Because he has a great message. He appeals to the Trump base. And by the way, Trump going after DeSantis, is he really going to want to scorch his reputation, lose his standing amongst people who believe in his policies, but who also believe that his moment has passed?
Well, let's deal with Trump, because Democrat John Fetterman, you've seen this, quite a shock here. He defeated Dr. Oz in the Pennsylvania Senate race. He flipped the state seat from red to blue. Now, Oz was vigorously supported by Donald Trump.
Yeah, and
So can we conclude that the Republicans have a Trump problem?
yeah, and Trump helped defeat the other candidate in that race, who was a businessman that many people thought had a better chance of beating Fetterman. I mean, frankly, I cannot believe anyone voted for Fetterman, but they obviously did. And so that is a problem. Interestingly, some of Trump's candidates did win, J.D. Vance in Ohio, but I would contend that the very popular Mike DeWine, the governor there who won easily, helped him get ahead and helped J.D. Vance win. In Georgia, you also have a very popular governor, Governor Kemp, who I think very much helped Herschel Walker stay in that race and basically end up presumably going to a runoff on December 6th. So I think Trump does have a problem. Someone said to me earlier today, he can't share his popularity. I mean, he had a tremendous personal brand. I think he is destroying that brand every time he attacks another Republican, every time he continues to complain about the 2020 election. He's destroying his brand, and he can't share what made him so successful. By the way, one other thing, I don't know if you saw the clip on Twitter recently of Desantis at being introduced by a country western star for a rally in a big stadium. It sounded very much to me like what went on in 2016 when Donald Trump was a candidate. It was just unbelievable excitement in the room. And I think that's where DeSantis is now.
You're muted.
Fam, it's going to be a showdown. My bad there. I don't know what's going on. Fam, what do you think right now? You can see the media is already starting to pump up DeSantis right now to get him. Like, this is the guy. Any thoughts real quick? Because I think we need to get some answers from some people who can give us answers.
Well, I think DeSantis is, we called this a while ago. DeSantis is the next guy to replace Trump. The problem is DeSantis is 10,000 times worse than Trump. He makes Trump look like, a dove when it comes to foreign policy. DeSantis will be a neocon, a full-on neocon, like McCain, Bush combined. He is actually extremely dangerous. I think he would go to war with China. I think he would go and intervene in Latin America within seconds. If I had to choose between a DeSantis and a Trump, no questions asked, I would prefer Trump. I mean, I wouldn't, put myself in that situation, and I won't vote anymore. But I'm just saying, like, DeSantis is really bad news. He's like Bush 2.0. I think it mixed with like a couple of other things. He says things to get a rise out of people too, kind of like Trump. But he's definitely tricked a lot of people. In fact, some people in Russia thought DeSantis was not bad because of his stance on COVID and stuff. But he really, beside that, like, and like you said, he came with that very late in the game. I see him as an establishment neocon rather than any sort of like populist, right?
I think for us too, the Latin America, like if DeSantis gets into the White House, I think they'll invade Cuba the very next day. But listen, let's just clear the air, because it looks like we have somebody coming in. It looks like we have two guests. Let's take one at a time though. Let's start right now, because I think we have to square this circle. And we'll kind of address this stuff too as well, because there's some people in the chat saying America first is a KK thing. They did it in the 1920s. Yeah, I get it. But just basic language, America first doesn't mean KKK white supremacy. It's not a code for them. They believe in going anti-globalism and being a nationalist. That's what they believe. So that's what their thoughts are. But let's talk to the man himself. Donald Trump is on the phone. Donald Trump, sir, how are you doing today? We heard some things going on. What do you think about this whole media thing where they're trying to spur up some problems between you and Ron DeSantis?
Well, first of all, Pastor Fee, thank you so much for having me. I have to say that DeSanctimonious is being a little baby, quite frankly. Okay, I think he owes everything, honestly, to Trump, okay? And probably out of everybody in the world, his wife included, and maybe his mistresses down there in Tallahassee, nobody knows the sanctimonious better than the Donald, okay? I know him really well. And when he was running for governor, he was a do-nothing Zionist congressman who nobody knew about. And then I took him and I picked him out of the garbage, and he shot up like a rocket ship when I endorsed him. So to see what he's doing right now is very, very disgusting. And quite frankly, he's playing games, okay? The fake news says, "Are you going to run?" If President Trump runs and he says, "I'm only focused on the governor's race, I'm not looking into the future." Well, in terms of loyalty and class, that's not the right answer. It's very low pasta. It's low energy. It's a disaster. And I got way more votes in Florida. Okay. You want to talk about the villages? I got all the votes in the village. Okay. I'm so popular. I'm almost as popular as herpes in the villages. Almost. Okay. But this is not going to go well
Okay.
for Ron DeSanctimonious. Believe
To
me.
sanctimonious. What about that email though that you put out? Don't you think that, I mean, he hasn't announced yet. He's just out there. He's being a good Republican. You said you would want him to be the governor and stuff like that. Do you think it was necessary to send out that email that said that you were the one that won that election for him? Otherwise, he wouldn't have won.
Yeah, I think that was in very poor taste. Okay, I mean, look, we got Fox here. They're talking about everything. Fox is News Corps. Okay, they're owned by those people. They're a bunch of clowns. Okay, and the New York Post, quite frankly, is the New York compost now. Okay, they used to be great when they were good to Trump, but they're not so good to Trump right now, and they got to attack me now to get ratings. So we call them the New York compost, and they're being very nice to Governor DeSanctimonious. Okay, but look, he would be nothing without me. He wouldn't be where he is today without me. And Florida is a great state, but it's a great state because Mar-a-Lago's down there. Okay, let's be honest. All right, where Jeffrey Epstein was hanging out looking for some young ladies. Okay, Mar-a-Lago. I don't know him. Epstein could come in here right now. I wouldn't know who he was. But look, DeSantis is a loser. He's a lightweight. He'd be nothing without me. Okay, and I think that email was very disgraceful and a very poor taste, Pasta.
Okay, listen, I think we need a person from the Republican Party who can be neutral, maybe a libertarian within the Republican Party. So let's get the opinions of Rand Paul over here. Congressman Paul, Senator Paul, thank you for joining us today. What are your thoughts on what you see playing out? I mean, you're technically a Republican. What do you think is going to happen with this whole situation? It seems like there's a civil war inside your party, sir.
Well, thanks for having me, Pasta. As you can tell, I'm very excited to be here. And I don't think that most Americans are very happy with the way things are going. They don't want to see socialism. They don't want to see a bald man with hair plugs who does inappropriate showers with young children and occupying the White House. Most people don't want to see this. What they want somebody from Kentucky who could give you a bottle of bourbon and fix your teeth or your eyes, depending on what Latin American country I'm touring. I'm not trying to launch coups like Trump did. I advised him not to do that, Pasta, and he may have listened to me when it came to Iran. Otherwise, I don't even know what we're doing.
Senator Paul, we have a little bit of an issue going on with the Libertarians. I know you're in the Republican Party, but you're a Libertarian at heart. What do you think the Libertarian Party has to do to get on the map for the next election? Because, I saw Biden out there and Kamala and Obama got out there, and they're going around with other candidates. I didn't see that for the Libertarian Party. I didn't see Dave Smith or Justin Amash or Spike Cohen out with other candidates. I mean, what could the Libertarians do to gain some strength? I mean, should they run as Republican or should they stay in the Libertarian Party and try with the new Mises caucus to do something?
Well, Justin Amash is no longer in power, is he, Pasta? He is not allowed at Senate hearings to ask transitional doctors if they prefer puberty blockers in their Cinnamon Toast Crunch or their Oreos. This is what Republicans have to do if they want to go anywhere. They need to embrace the culture wars. They need to prescribe more red meat. And I think that's what you're seeing a lot of Republicans do. When they go full retard, they tend to get more votes. If they want to talk nuance and policy, and maybe we shouldn't be in other countries overthrowing people, and maybe we shouldn't be doing no-knock warrants, and maybe we shouldn't be telling people which way to vote, they're still going to lose. So I think in my case, yes, I am a member of the Republican Party, small L libertarian. And, like members of the Beatles, they're always compared and asked about their fathers, and I'm tired of that. I'd rather golf with Donald Trump and get advice on how to fix my hair.
Okay, so, I mean, listen, you obviously are an anti-regime change person. You're not an interventionist, but you wrote a book said the argument against socialism. So in a way, you're kind of encouraging people like Ron DeSantis, who could be the president maybe one day, to go and invade these other countries in Latin America that have socialist governments.
Look, if DeSantis is willing to listen to me and come to Liberty Caucus and have some bourbon and, some whiskey and talk about leaf trimmings, I'm all for that. I'm all about having off ramps and building bridges. Yes, if he gets in there, he may want to bomb China. He may want to bomb Iran, but that's, we can walk that back. I mean, things are going so well right now with Russia and Ukraine, as you can tell, Pasta. So I think I could get to him, and I have to work on my golf game. And I will be able to work with him.
Do you have any questions? Ladies and gentlemen, the Jackman brothers are here with us today. Mike Jackman, Eric Jackman, Donald Trump, Rand Paul. Do you have any questions for the congressman, the senator or the ex-president? Senator or ex-president?
Okay, between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, who would you push and why?
Well,
Eric
is
or
Rand,
Mike, whichever.
Well,
Trump or Rand?
I would agree with you. I would go with Trump. I mean, the thing about Trump is he has the memory of a goldfish. So whether it's the policy advisor that he met with to talk about the Ayatollahs or the butler who brought him his Big Mac, he's going to ask for policy advice, and that's what he's going to go with. And if I happen to win the lottery and be the lucky person to be the last person that he talked to about foreign policy, then I'm okay with that.
Let's give Mr. Trump. What do you have to say about that?
I can't disagree with that. Look, Randy's a sharp guy. I gave him a lot of money before 2016. We were very good friends. His hair is a disaster. But that's another thing we can talk about. Okay, I got some great people down here in Florida who could help him with that hair because, quite frankly, it looks like a skunk and a muskrat had sex, had a baby, and then the baby died on his head. Okay, and it was reading Mises, and it was talking about gold and the gold standard and abolishing the Fed and the IRS and all that. Obviously, my answer is going to be Trump. Okay, it's Trump all the time. It's Trump every day. It's Trump everywhere. Fee. All right. DeSantis, DeSanctimonious is a total lightweight. All right. He's not going to get out of the Everglades. Okay. When I'm done with him, believe me, he's going to be alligator meat down in the Everglades when Trump is done with him. Okay.
Hey, can I just say something? President Biden here. Can I just say something? God bless you, Pasta. God bless you for having me on. And look, come on, man. I'm 80 years old. Look, watch me do cock push-ups. You ever see anybody do one? You seen Biden do it. You see Hunter do it. Hey, you see Hunter's laptop? You want to talk about a cock push-up? Check out Hunter's laptop, folks. And this is why you should reelect me in 24. I have every intention of running. Hunter's got his memoir coming out. Jill's teaching me how to ride the Amtrak again. We're leaving the basement. We're building back better. We're grabbing all the 12-year-olds by the scruff of the neck, and we're smelling the goodness in America, folks. And that's why the Democrats are going to win. Blue wave, tidal wave, SeaWorld. You see it, man. Come on.
Eric, you got anything else for that real quick? He's walking. He's saluting the crane. Remember, he saluted the crane last week.
Watch me.
Well, look, the only reason Joe Biden won is because you got everybody who died in Titanic to vote for him 1,000 times, okay? We know what happened in Maricopa County, all right? It happened in Georgia, okay? I called Ratch and Poopy, whatever his name is down there, that weak Secretary of State loser they have, Ratch and Poo-Poo. And I said, I need you to find me 11,342 votes, okay? And he couldn't do it. So we know that Joe cheated, and they're cheating again. They're trying to get Carrie Lake, who's a very nice lady. I wish that she had long hair so I could grab it when I'm doing a doggy, but that's neither here nor there. But she's going to win down in Arizona, okay? She is, believe me. MAGA is not dead. It's alive and well. And buckle up and get ready because 2024 is going to be incredible.
You got anything to say there, Senator Paul or Joe Biden or whoever you want to be? You got anything else?
We're gonna have to call a priest in to perform an exorcism because sometimes Alex Jones shows up and the Lord's running through and he's just screaming. He's talking about Bilderberg Group. He's talking about CFR, Trilateral Commission, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Bilderberg. I already said Bilderberg, Bohemian Grove. They're all there, folks. I'm working 25-hour days. Infowars.com. Save them forward. Let's do it.
That's awesome. Guys, listen. Let me let you really quick plug some of your stuff. If you guys don't know Mike and Eric Jackman, and let's get a little conversation before we go in. Fam, we're not going to do my last section because we're going to have to save that for another day, but we'll get to the Russia stuff right after. But while we got the boys here, because we met the Jackman brothers in New Hampshire when we were following the primaries. We actually met at a Tulsi Gabbard event. It was her after party. It was supposed to be a celebration. She was polling around 8-9%. Funny thing is she got about 9-10% in the hand counted areas. The machine counted areas, she got less than 2%. We got a lot of things going on right now. You mentioned Maricopa, but I don't want to go too crazy on it. You guys are libertarians, right? So what are you guys thinking about the future when I did say let's start with the libertarian thing. We didn't see a lot of these guys out there campaigning with some of these people. I understand it's a decentralized party, but how do we get to the table the next time? I mean, literally, Jimmy Dore was on the show the other day. He goes, I'll run with Dave. He was joking around comedians, but listen, Smith Dore 24 makes sense. And he said, but he'll never let me put Medicare for all on the ballot. Angela McCarter had a show the other day. She mentioned the Convo Couch as people that she went after because they're anti-war. They're not about regime change. It's one of the things the anti-imperialist left. They have commonality. They probably like Ron Paul more than anybody else. But if they're not going to get their butts out there and campaign with people, is there any shot for the Libertarian Party to make some noise on the ticket and in Congress in 2024?
Well, I'll correct you a little bit, Pasta. I'm not part of the Libertarian Party. I'm an independent with libertarian leanings.
That's who I am.
Medicare for all is one thing that is pretty much stopping me from being a full-fledged libertarian, because I believe in Medicare for all, and I want that, and I support it. And I get a lot of shit from a lot of libertarians, but hey, man, that's par for the course. And you're right, the libertarians are all different, and they're fractured, and they fight amongst themselves, and it doesn't do the party as a whole any favors. But the idea of two comedians who have very large audiences, who agree on a lot of the big picture stuff and obviously disagree on some economics and Medicare for all and other things, it could be pretty powerful, and I think that would be very interesting. I would support that. I'd love to see something like that happen. But as far as getting out there, I mean, we saw what my friend Reed Coverdale did here in New Hampshire to impact the Senate race here, and they got national press coverage for some of the stuff that they were doing. They were really going after Don Bolduc, who was the Senate Republican MAGA Senate nominee here in New Hampshire, and it's just a small group of people, but they're active and they're on the ground and they're passionate and they're truly anti-war. And Maggie Hassan, the Democrat, ended up winning re-election here in New Hampshire, so they can have an impact on things, but putting aside some differences is the only way that we're all going to come together. So I don't really have the answer, but I think still taking a stand for stuff and being anti-war, and I'm with real progressives and anti-imperialist left, like Abby and Robbie Martin, like you guys, like Jimmy Dore, who are real about it and who have been consistent. So
yeah. Mike, go ahead and get some comments on that too as well. I don't know if you're a Medicare for all person too. I mean, I think that Medicare is a human right, but after seeing what we went through these last couple of years with this whole COVID situation, I don't want to hand over my health care to the government, so I don't have the answers. But I know some people, and I know Fam's there, I know Jimmy's there. They're strong on Medicare for all. Obviously, Eric's there too as well. What are your thoughts as far as what we can do as far as maybe, I don't know if you think too as well, if you want to push the Libertarian Party moving forward in 2024. I voted for all libertarians except one MAGA guy, Jim Marchand, who's an election integrity guy, but I voted Libertarian across the board this time, and I'm not a Libertarian.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, you find yourself agreeing with the real big picture issues, but, there's many debates to be had, and it could be a moral argument that as an American citizen, shouldn't that just be baked in to the whole deal? You're an American citizen, and you should have access to the same healthcare that senators and members of Congress get. I mean, I think there's a fair argument to be made for that. I mean, I agree. I'm not for compelling people to have to pay, for others. It's a complex issue. I guess I would say yes. Ultimately, I am for Medicare for all, but we need to figure out how we get there. And I've always said if we just cut back on the Pentagon budget and our warmongering ways, we could probably get there pretty easily, honestly. And there's so much propaganda against it, where if you speak up about it or you try to talk about it, you're immediately written off as a socialist or a communist or whatever. But I think here in America, the wealthiest nation in the world, we can figure it out. We don't want to figure it out because it's profitable. They make so much money off of it being a for-profit system. They want to keep people sick. They want people to be in the hospital. They want to be able to jack the rates up. The insurance companies and the medical companies want to be able to have lobbyists that ultimately dictate and write and determine all the laws. So until we can get that part of it changed, and I mean, they couldn't, like you always say, Pasta, and Jimmy Dore says, they couldn't even get it to a vote. The squad couldn't even get it to a vote. So you got to start there. But I would love to be able to see seniors, not have to worry about, dying in their homes during the winter or when there's a really bad heat wave. I know plenty of people who don't go to the doctors because they don't have health care. I mean, myself included, I've had gaps in my health care. I currently don't have health care right now through my job. And I've skipped going to the doctor or going to the hospital when I felt something was wrong because I was like, another bill I can't afford. And I think a lot of people are in that boat because they're afraid to do it. So it's just got to be a priority. I mean, if we can, blow up bridges and rebuild them thousands of miles away, I think we can figure out healthcare here domestically. I know I'm simplifying it, but
no, that's good. You got anything for them, fam, before we just let them plug their stuff?
No, good answers. I mean, I agree. I care about the government having control over our health with what they've done, but I think we can find mechanisms to where we have a say, that they wouldn't just, you would lose your health care if you didn't get a certain vaccine or whatever you want to call it, like if in that case, like there could be, if it was an actual people ruled system. The problem is the system right now, I think it's bigger than, just getting healthcare. But in spite of everything falling apart, I would like to see some relief for some people who really need it. So,
yeah. I know you're not a libertarian either, guys. Either am I, right? But like I vote libertarian. I think you got Eric. I think we've had conversations about this before. We did it when what's his name with the boot over his head was in the place. Vermin Supreme, right? Okay.
Well,
So,
I'm not an anarchist. I don't want to. I'm not an anarchist. A lot of my friends are. They're libertarian. They're hardcore libertarians. I think the problem is they're just too dug in, and that turns a lot of people off. And that's where you can lose common ground with like real anti-imperialist left, and libertarians can get caught up in culture war bullshit just like everybody else.
Yeah. But the thing that we have to recognize is that they're on the ballot, right? There were no Green Party members on my ballot over here to vote for.
Well, the Green Party wanted me to run. They wanted Governor Ventura, and they couldn't get their act together, so they don't get me. They didn't get me. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to. They're going to get Base Plant Lady again, who I voted for, by the way, in 2016. I voted for Base Plant Lady because I believe in her. I want her to replace Uma Thurman in the next Batman movie as Poison Ivy. But I mean, I did. I supported Ron Paul in 2008 and 2012, and I supported Jill Stein in 2016 because she had real environmental stuff on the ballot, 9/11 truth on the ballot, real anti-war, anti-imperialism, just real issues, and was legitimate about the anti-war stuff, just like Ron Paul was. So I don't go towards the candidate or the personality. I tend to go towards the real big picture issues.
But
and that sometimes brings you to libertarians a lot of the times. You're right.
A lot of times, yeah. I mean,
I'm with you though too, Fee. If it's DeSantis or Trump, I'd rather have Trump again.
Me too.
Like,
I'm there too.
Me too.
I'm there too.
Because DeSantis has a proven record in Congress of being a hawk, a China hawk, a neocon, Zionist, pro-imperialism. He wants to fucking invade Latin America. He's He's dog shit
on elections. He sucks on elections. He's completely duping the people and just going after the red meat. Throwing the red meat to people, and that's frivolous. The thing. Like, and I've spoken at 2 election integrity events now, with the American Project. They're called, right? It's Patrick Burns people. It's General Flynn, his brother, all them, right? They understand election integrity, and they're in Florida. And a lot of the groups they're working with out of Florida, they're not going to dupe, even though they've been really kind of softballish, a little bit weight, and they're not critical. But DeSantis, with his little kind of police force about elections, and then arresting 20 freaking felons that didn't even know if they were past the period, and he's duping people while he lets Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Brenda Snipes go. When they had pretty much a confession from Brenda Snipes, she destroyed the ballots before the 22-month period, right? I mean, they let it go. Because the establishment washes each other's back. So even on elections, he sucks. Jackman Brothers, we do appreciate it. Guys, where can they find all your stuff? Let everybody know about Jackman Brothers. You guys got an awesome video when Joe Biden came to New Hampshire out there that you guys are pumping right now. I heard Steve listening to something. You guys were on the stage doing some shit out there, and he was laughing like a little schoolgirl. Let everybody know where they can find you and stuff. So please.
Yeah, that's a funny little clip I shared of Mike and I with Reed Coverdale at a libertarian venue clubhouse here on the coast in New Hampshire, where Mike did a free-form Joe Biden dementia jazz odyssey. So if everyone wants to watch that clip, please follow us on Instagram, Jackman Radio on Instagram, and my handle is Senator Jackman on Instagram. Yeah, our YouTube channel is Jackman Radio, and I'm on Twitter, so you can find us all on there. Mike doesn't use Twitter. He doesn't use Instagram. He's smart. I do all that.
But
kind of
I'm on
thing.
Venmo though, folks. If you want Uncle Joe in his underwear uncensored, give Mike a Venmo. It's Mike Jackman 1986. I'll be there, folks.
Eric, you got anything to say as Mr. Trump if you're going to run again, and what Desantis has to look forward to?
I think, quite frankly, pasta and fee and family in the convo couch. And believe me, I know convo couch. I know casting couch, if you know what I mean. I'm going to make a very big announcement next week. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be from Mar-a-Lago, which has been called the eighth wonder of the world. I think it's the first through the seventh wonder of the world. It's going to be incredible. DeSanctimonious is just a fart in the wind right now. Okay, nobody is as potent as MAGA because this is a movement. A bowel movement, and it cannot be stopped. It will not be stopped. America first, DeSanctimonious last, okay? So buckle up, folks. It's going to be huge.
Senator Paul, anything to say on the way out?
Like I said, we're very happy to be here. Just very happy overall, Pasta. Very happy to have won re-election and have to deal with people of, superior complex and an inferior cerebral cortex, if you know what I mean. So I would just say more libertarians are going to win if they continue to have award-winning personalities. And I think they should make more Meghan McCain tweets. I think it's very, very appropriate, especially on Veterans Day.
The Jackman brothers, that's them. We love them.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Come back.
Nice to see you, Fee.
Bye. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you guys.
You guys
Take
take
care.
off of work and jump in the morning shows whenever you want. All right. We love you. Fam, that was my surprise today. The Jackman brothers today. I knew you'd love the Rand Paul. And I knew you'd love the Donald Trump. I knew we got to get answers. Listen, there's some people in the chat. There was talking about the America First thing. Showing.
Okay, can I answer that real quick?
Yes, you can.
Pasta's literally just calling them that. He's not endorsing them. He's literally saying the name that they call themselves. I don't understand why we have to continue to have this conversation. Like, I understand that you think it's that, blah, blah, blah. But because you said you like it better than another name, maybe that's why. I mean, I don't like that name. Whatever. But Pasta was just literally.
I said better than Patriot, right? Like they call themselves Patriots and whatnot. And that thing is like whatever. That's very
the same
vague.
thing to me. It's interchangeable to me because to me it's like an empire. So you whatever. But I just don't want to get stuck on like this is my issue. People get stuck on like labels and like these things. It's like what we're talking about is what matters. We're literally, like it's just like it's like I feel like I'm in the Democratic Party again, where they're stuck on like my God, point of personal privilege. My name is blah blah blah. Like it's just like, no, you didn't call me by the right name. And then they spend an hour arguing about shit that doesn't matter. Like it's what they call themselves. I can't change it. He can't change it. It's what they call themselves. Period. Like,
Let's get into the Russia stuff, fam. And
let's get into
that. Thank you so much. That was my fault there. See, fam's got to keep me in line because I mentioned it again. And you're right. Let's just standing on ceremony. That's not what they think it is. That's not what I think it is. It doesn't make a difference. It's what they call themselves, whatever. Let's just move on. So, fam, what's going on over here?
Right. So remember the Kherson, right? The issue with Kherson, and people were freaking out all over the internet, even people that were pro-Russia. I think a lot of people, and let me say this, who have followed this closely, a lot of analysts who aren't necessarily here, but they follow this closely from wherever they're from, and they're really into this whole conflict, and they, have meticulously made it like their number one thing. Got really emotional yesterday. I can understand why a Russian would get emotional. Because you're a Russian and you understand that this is your country, these are your people. And I, of course, with Russians, we have different conversations, but with people who are not Russian and you're, really just emotional about this and you're making all these things, people really just got really reactive and really, we're not seeing like the logical aspect of this, and only a handful of people really are. Among them, Brian Bertletic, Scott Ritter, myself, Eva, Vanessa. We kind of have like a different perspective on this, and especially like just being here and hearing like what the significance of this was. You hear all kinds of things, but at the same time, what we understand is this was a military decision that was more geared based on logistics rather than the political aspect. And you can talk about how Russians are bad at this and how they don't know what that's whatever. It's at the end of the day, they're looking at what's going to preserve their men, what's going to preserve their weapons, and what's going to save lives. Now, I can't say that this wasn't politically a bad move, because politically, from the outside perspective, yeah, it absolutely looks like a loss for Russia. But is it really? Well, I don't think so. And what the comments that were made today by the Kremlin support that assertion. So this was a few statements from Putin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. And he said something that I think a lot of people missed. The Kherson region remains part of the Russian Federation. There are no and cannot be any changes. What does this mean? I thought they evacuated Kherson, and they just finished, by the way, breaking news. They finished evacuating all 115,000 people and all the soldiers they had to evacuate. So what does this mean then at that point? Well, there's the region of Kherson. It's a big region, right? They became part of the Russian Federation. Within Kherson, there is Kherson City, okay? And that is the part they evacuated to the, I believe, south of the Dnieper River. And that is what they're talking about. So just because they evacuated Kherson City doesn't mean that they're giving up all of Kherson, the region. And also the lines haven't been drawn up yet. And like literally, this is just basic facts that are coming from the Russian side, right? And he specifically also said Russia does not regret that it accepted Kherson region, meaning with the referendum, it was accepted into the Federation, the Russian Federation. We mentioned this earlier. Putin will not be attending the G20 summit. He needs to be in Russia. He's also not going to be attending it online. He's who's going to have the attendance is going to be Sergei Lavrov. He's going to be the one in attendance. Why Putin needs to be in Russia? He has to deal with things clearly. He is dealing with a lot in Russia. And if you just scroll down a little bit, I think there's a couple more things. And yeah, so this is from Dmitry Peskov, right? He said Russia sees growing awareness in the West, and that anti-Russian sanctions are bringing turbulence to the EU's economy. So Russia understands that this is happening. They understand that this is a major objective in a way, like they're pushing back, they're fighting back, and even though they're the ones being sanctioned, the sanctions against them are bouncing and causing chaos to the European economy and to, of course, members of NATO and the EU. The special military operation, labeled SMO, in Ukraine is going to continue and end when the objectives are achieved. So there are a bunch of people right now saying that, oh, now may be the time to have to leave. This is over. Blah, 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 just because Russia has said, hey, we're willing to negotiate. But they have always said this from the start. They have always been like, well, we're willing to negotiate if Ukraine wants to actually give us something tangible that's fair, right? But they haven't achieved all of their objectives. In fact, they are continuing to prepare for the winter. And many analysts believe that the winter is when Russia really will succeed. Why? Well, because they're Russian and they know the winter and they know the terrain and they have the experience, and they are basically doing, and this is pastas. Well, I'll go into that in a second. But this is, they said it was possible to achieve the goals of the SMO through negotiations, but due to Kiev's demands, it's impossible. So he's telling you right now that it's possible to have some sort of negotiation. But if Kiev continues demanding the same thing they've been demanding, there's going to be no negotiation. So as far as a tactic, right, this is what it seems like Russia's doing. And this is just my analysis. And I believe a few other people have a similar view. It's almost like they're trying to do Pasta's favorite phrase, the rope-a-dope. They are trying to tire Ukraine, completely deplete them of as many weapons as they can, as many men as they can, and themselves preserve their men and their weapons, and then have enough for the winter, because the winter is brutal here. And in these parts, I mean, right now it's fine. It was actually way colder a few weeks ago. Today it was really like 9 degrees Celsius, or almost 50 degrees. It was like 49 degrees today, which was hot. That's hot for Russia. And they're basically trying to tire them out. Why? Because if they stayed here, if they stayed in that particular part of Kherson, they would have been completely busy fighting the Ukraine, who was coming in with all these shellings constantly. There would have been a loss of civilian life, and they would have had to waste their time trying to fight in this region, which they could then go back and get later, because their objective isn't to conquer land. Their objective is to really deplete Ukraine off of as much artillery and as much just soldiers as they can. I mean, intentionally, I mean, at this point. And of course, Ukraine has lost more men than Russia has. So if you're looking at this from the perspective of, oh, who's, they just evacuated Kherson, so they lost, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you could say that in that point of view. But if you're looking at it in terms of the long run, the bigger picture, and as we mentioned yesterday on yesterday's show, you have the Russian game plan, how the Russians play chess. They don't play chess to immediately win and conquer pieces. They play the long game. And it's if you understand that about Russia, you can understand why they did this. Yeah. And so that is my analysis. And I believe I mean, we don't know. None of us know. And I'm not going to say I know everything, because I don't. And I just believe, based on what I'm hearing from the Kremlin directly, based on what we're hearing from other analysts, people who are actually part of the, who are military analysts as well, who have been in the military, and people who just know about Russia and how Russia conducts their affairs, particularly in the military. I just think this is a bit more accurate than just looking at it from the surface level. And Pasta, if you want to say anything before I continue.
No, just I keep going. I mean, the rope-a-dope, just so people understand, this was the Muhammad Ali versus Joe Foreman, the Rumble in the Jungle, I believe it was, it was the Rumble in the Jungle, I believe it was. No, that was not Joe Frazier's fight. Well, anyways, when he fought George Foreman, and he won the belt back, and this is after years, fam, and he got the belt stripped for him because he refused to go to Vietnam, all that stuff that he went through. He went back and he was the champion again. He leaned against the ropes, and George Foreman was this big, slugging, heavy, just one of the hardest hitting heavyweights, big guy, fam. And he he leaned back against the ropes, and George Foreman just kept on swinging and hit. He got a couple shots in, but nothing clean. He was mostly swinging at air, and then by time I think it was the 7th or 8th round came around, he was all tired out, fam. He was depleted, and then Muhammad Ali did what he had to do and came on in, and it was easy to put him down then because he had worn himself out. So I think that what you're saying when you say the rope-a-dope is you're going to let Ukraine wear themselves out. I mean, right? We've talked about this before. This is something that was said on Crosstalk with Peter when he has his guest, is that we know this is NATO troops fighting. Now, this is foreign troops there. Mostly, there might be some Ukrainians left, but the Ukrainian army has depleted themselves. They're done. You know what I'm saying? Pretty soon, they're going to run out of bodies to fight. They can up the age for retirement to 75 from the army or the military, the Ukrainians can, but sooner or later, they're out of gas. But here's Dmitry Medvedev, fam. Please, go ahead.
Right. So Dmitry Medvedev from the Russian Security Council said this: the concept of territorial sovereignty has not disappeared anywhere in our country. Everything will return home to the Russian Federation. So right there, he's telling you that leaving Kherson city is not like the end game, right? Otherwise, you would hear something. And by the way, when you're fighting a war, you're not going to publicize everything, right? You can't, because then the enemy will see. I mean, it's just part of that, right? Unfortunately, that's just how it works. He said everything will return home to the Russian Federation. The alarmism of all caring people is quite understandable, but the hysteria and alarmism are not. So he's talking and alluding to the people that have freaked the hell out based on what they've been hearing. And it's understandable, like I said, from Russians or from people who have like ties to Russia, family in Russia, and who are upset, because it is frustrating from one end to feel like, and I share this, that the Russians have not been aggressive enough, and they could have been more aggressive from the get-go, and they could have gone in there with more men. This is a criticism, right? They could have gone in with more men and literally just gotten them out, done away with Ukraine. But they were extremely careful about one thing, and it was civilian casualties. They did not want civilian casualties. They could have pulled a U.S. in Iraq and bombed the hell out of everything.
Too, fam, right? Let's be not just human life, but infrastructure too. They don't want to blow up. You know what I'm saying? Up until recently, they never went near, Kiev's energy supplies, right? Like they very minimal, right? Trying to preserve everything. Then all of a sudden, after Crimea, it was like, okay, now you're going to live in the dark. You know what I'm saying? That's really take this on.
No, and they're still and even though they did that plus and they held back, they were still painted as Hitler. Like Putin was still painted as Hitler. The Russians were completely banned from literally everywhere. So imagine that's also something on their minds if they went in like the US did. Right?
American
Imagine
policy,
that
fam.
There's just not, it's just, so that is one aspect of it too. It's like, well, we don't want to look like that either, because we're already getting so much hate and blah, blah, blah. And negotiation has always been on the table. That there's never been a moment where the negotiation hasn't been something that's been out. So I do also want to point that out. And did I have a second part to that or no?
You have a video coming up.
To the tweet. Did I have a second part to?
I didn't see it, but was there something underneath it? It says don't give cause. Okay, you did say do not give cause for joy to the enemy near and far, and often remind him of the greatness and infinity of the Russian world. That's what you
said. So he got super poetic, basically saying you're giving the West, right? You're giving the enemy like more fodder. They're like rejoicing. They're like, it's done. The Russians are retreating, blah, blah, blah. So if you're looking at the territory situation where you're like, oh, they're leaving Kherson City, blah, blah, blah. They're retreating, but you're not looking at the men lost, the weapons lost by Ukraine, like the depletion of the forces. You're missing like the bigger picture. You're missing a huge part of really what is going on in the entire situation. And I think it's important for people to understand that you can't just look at all this whole thing without context. And I'm not saying this because I want the outcome to be a certain way. Obviously, I believe that Russia is in a way fighting the collective West. I believe that Russia is really this is a bigger war than the U.S. is making it out to be. Oh, this is Russia fighting a Ukraine war. This is Russia launched a special military operation to denazify Ukraine, to really protect the Donbass regions that we just went through with Don, where we saw like the 8 years of everything that happened. But then it turned into, okay, well, now we're fighting the collective West and we're fighting for our right to exist. So yes, all of that is true. But if Russia was really about to negotiate, we would have to report it. We would have to say, okay, well, Russia's ready to negotiate. They in fact went out talking about Kherson City. They talked about this live on Russian television like that. They weren't hiding it. They were like, talking about this. And I think they knew that there was going to be some emotions and that people were going to be upset and hurt in some way. But I don't think they anticipated just how much, and how many people are just directly like so affected by this whole thing. So I think it's important to look at that aspect as well.
So, fam, what is this over here? I have to mute myself up, but you tell us what this is, and then I'll just press play.
Right. So this is Andrew, and Andrew did an analysis on this very situation as to why the troops pulled out. So let's hear what he said because I thought he made some good points.
Friends, there's no way to sugarcoat it. The partial pullback from Kherson region was politically disappointing. The obvious reason for this is because the region had voted to reunify with Russia in late September. Therefore, the argument can be made that Russia has pulled its military forces out of part of one of its constituent territories. Having said that, there is some nuance, and it's important to mention here. Russia had yet to officially delineate its new international frontiers. That being the case, it can officially be said that perhaps the right bank of Kherson region was not yet officially part of Russia, but because its people did participate in the referendum, that's a bit of a moot point. Now, moving forward, from the humanitarian perspective and military ones, this move was obvious and is rational. The reason being is that Army General Surovikin had mentioned that Kiev is plotting to blow up the Kakhovka Dam. This is old news. It has yet to happen, thank God. But in the event that it does, the scenario is being held over those peoples and the armed forces' heads like a Damocles sword because it would utterly devastate them and isolate those who survive. That being the case, and considering the fact that Kiev has full Western backing in carrying out such large-scale terrorist attacks, there is no doubt that since it is a plausible scenario, it makes sense to take preemptive measures to safeguard the civilian population and the armed forces tasked with defending them. There's also another point to make as well, and it's that in this conflict, it was never over territory. Yes, part of it was over defending Donbass, but that was the extent of the territorial aims of the special operation. The main reason was to neutralize the impending military threat coming out of Kiev from NATO. Now, we can argue back and forth over what has been achieved thus far and what hasn't, but the fact of the matter is that this was not about territory. Therefore, those that are trying to spin any type of partial pullback from part of Russia or part of land that was considered to be part of Russia, mind you, as some type of Russian loss, that's not exactly true. This has always been about military and strategic affairs. Of course, it's important to protect civilians living in certain areas of the land, but they can be protected inside the Russian hinterland. So keep that in mind when assessing events. Again, it's disappointing, but don't fall for doom and gloom.
Okay, so pretty much very similar analysis to what I was saying, and I think it's important to also note that the only one thing I would say is they didn't leave the entire region because the lines, as he mentioned, haven't necessarily been drawn, and because Kherson, as was mentioned by these two Kremlin officials, is they still consider it a part of Russia, which means that they don't intend on leaving it. So I think those are some great points made, and again, we'll see how this develops. We know that Russia is willing to negotiate with Ukraine if it's all of its objectives are met, but its objectives haven't been met yet. So there's no need to really think that that's going to happen. Also, the United States and Europe have vowed to give more money to Ukraine already.
Really?
So, yeah, oh yeah. The United States, I believe, I forgot, it's millions more.
Well, we know it's not going to stop. So
yeah, exactly.
So we have this here. You have this quote tweet. Do you want to read the tweet itself first?
Yeah. So, well, you guys can read it, right? Remember when U.S. Special Representative Pramila Patten said that Russian troops were given Viagra and were using rape as a military strategy? And by the way, her office was created via Security Council resolution introduced by Hillary Clinton because her focus is on sex crimes or something like that. And Washington used this tactic, of course, against Libyan troops during NATO's intervention in 2011. Muammar Gaddafi, they said that he was giving his troops Viagra to encourage mass rape. So this was under Susan Rice when that was happening. But Pramila Patten has been the UN rep. And so if you go back to the quote tweet fam, basically what happened is that she was tricked by these two Russian pranksters. They got on a phone call and they pretended to be this official from Ukraine on the foreign military council. And so 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 basically they tricked her, and she was telling them, oh yeah, well, I'm not, it's not my job to make investigations. I don't really have evidence. I don't have such a mandate. I'm sitting in New York in an office in New York. I mean, she, if you just scroll down, I said the whole tweet. And then she was like, yeah, in fact, fam, if we can find the video, that'd be great. But if you just scroll down on this, on the next one.
That's you right there. That
Yeah.
one. Notice.
No, the next,
All
the one
right.
below it.
That one. I guess Elon.
It's not moving for me, so I don't know.
Let me see real quick. Am I on the right one? Oh, you
No,
know,
you're out. It's the right
I'm
one
on
is
the wrong
showing.
one. All right. Yeah. My bad. I was on the wrong tweet.
Okay.
So here you go.
So, okay. And she says, she continued saying, I have advocacy mandate. My role is not to investigate. The investigation is being conducted by the Human Rights Monitoring Group and the International Commission of Inquiry. There's nothing about Viagra in the report yet. And so, she said there's nothing about Viagra in this report. And mind you, she had accused Russia of having hundreds of cases of rape, not just of women, but extended it to children in order to dehumanize women of these Ukrainians. And she said there were allegations of domestic violence, all of this. And I was on RT today talking about it for like 3 times. So you guys could probably see it. But yeah, it's really gross. And there's a video. I don't know if you can find it, but there's a video where she's like, it's the audio where she's like, no, an actual video.
Yeah.
These two, with these two guys, where she's literally like, admitting this to them, and they were pretending to be this official. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened. They actually caught another woman named what's her name, Ludmila Deniskova or something like that. I butchered her name, but Denisova. And she was basically tricked as well. She used to be the ombudsman to Ukraine, which is basically a fancy name for somebody that looks into the complaints, any sort of complaints. And so she admitted to these two pranksters that she was the lies she had made up about the Russians. She alleged that they had concentration camps of Ukrainians. And if you go to Google and you put concentration camps, Ukrainian concentration camps, or there's a specific name she said,
Yeah.
and you'll find it on Wikipedia. Oh yes, these are concentration camps the Russians had. And she admitted that a lot of these lies, again, gang rapes of women and all of this stuff, were a lot of these accusations were lies that Ukrainian intelligence told her to say. And she admitted that it was so that Ukraine could get the weapons it would need and the support, the public support it would need to succeed. And they never fact checked anything. Nobody ever apologized. No Western media ever did like, hey, we're going to issue a retraction because these things are lies. None of that ever happened. And, she was also pranked by these same guys. So it's kind of crazy. Nobody's talking about this except RT and maybe a bunch of people like that, Russian media or opposing media. But yeah, I mean, it's because what happens, fam, and what we discussed today was once the information's out that these Russians are raping women, they just repeat it like it's fact, and nobody fact checks it.
Well,
and it's like,
also,
these
too,
Russians are raping women.
If they have to be taken down at a certain time, right? They take it down, and then eventually they prove them wrong. The information's already out there, right? And this is something some people were talking about in Brazil. One of the laws that were enacted in their place is telling them misinformation. You know what I'm saying? They never have a price to pay. So that is the problem.
No,
and once you get the information out there, it's already out there. So I mean, the only way you can stop that is if you make sure that there's a price to pay for lying, and if you're caught colluding, then you get in trouble.
Well, she was fired, but that's
thank
it.
God.
Like, she was fired, but yeah. So that's that. Speaking of lies, I don't think we showed this last time, right?
I don't think so either.
This was from the Washington Post. They wrote an article where they named me, Margarita Smoyan, who is the editor-in-chief of RT, and Rachel Blevins, my colleague, because we tweeted at Elon Musk, right? And we tweeted at Musk basically saying, hey, we are shadow banned. Could you shadow ban us if you really are going to be a free speech advocate? On shadow ban us, not under any thought in my opinion, and in Rachel's that she shared with me, that Elon's actually going to do anything. But they did a whole article and trying to paint Elon like as he was siding with Putin or something like that in order to discredit. Now, I don't know what you guys think of what he's doing. I find it funny. I don't think he's actually going to protect speech, but I do find it funny that people have been freaking out, especially all these elitist journalists who are like so mad that other people could be given blue checks and stuff. Like, I find that entertaining because it's like they say, well, we don't want to be, we don't want to some impersonation and blah blah blah. It's not about that. It's about the fact that they want to feel more important than other people.
Well, they
and
also
this is legacy media.
like the party that's in charge right now that's pulling their strings and it's making their tweets and everything justified. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is decency over here. We don't need some tech guy who's going to let Republicans now come in there and talk crap. We want the people who are most vulnerable protected, fam. And Elon Musk is not going to do that. Joe Biden will. The Democrats will. They like it because they're not getting censored right now. That's why they like it. And not only that, fam. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm going to say it's not changing either. It's not, so there you go. You got the mainstream media throwing shit at you, and everybody's laughing about, they think Elon Musk is here. Well, look, this is a tweet I made. Take a look. It says right here in Las Vegas, okay, the system, there's automatic voter registration when you obtain or renew a driver's license, mass absentee mailed out to everyone on the voter rolls, mail-in ballots, are absentee ballots, and ballot harvesting. This is all legal in Vegas. And I said, combine these three laws, and you have a recipe for election fraud. Well, what did they put over here? Misleading. Learn why election experts say in elections the U.S. are safe and secure. Well, first off, who the fuck are their experts? Who?
Right.
And then when you go to it, and I said election fraud, it says here clearly voter fraud is rare in U.S. elections. Further adding to the point, fam, what you said before, that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't.
Right.
They have no clue. So they put that there. And fam, by the way, let me just show you something on the tweet. Let me go to the tweet right here. On this tweet itself, you can no longer like it and you can no longer comment on it. That is it. They took off the likes. They took off the comments. I appealed and I wrote the tweet here. They have labeled my tweet misleading information and have turned off the likes and comments, further censoring and suppressing the conversation. #censorship. I've gotten a decent amount of play on that, but they're not even in the right ballpark, fam. They're not. They hit me for voter fraud. I'm not talking about voter fraud. I'm talking about election fraud. So
they don't know the difference because they don't know what they're talking about. I guarantee you, these election experts don't know zero of what they're talking about, and we could go and talk to them, and they would show their whole ass because they literally don't know what they're talking about. And not only that, I thought Elon Musk was supposed to save free speech, right? All these people, these Elon simps that are like, oh, he's going to save. He hasn't done shit. He hasn't done shit with shadow banned accounts like mine. He hasn't. He's allowing that. He's allowing that sort of censorship, by the way. And he said he would. He said it from the beginning. He said, oh, first of all, we're going to wait to launch it till after the election. And then he also said, and no, we're going to protect, make sure that you have the right information for when it comes to elections. So we know he's shit on that. He hasn't talked about Julian Assange, as Misty points out all the time. So guys, I'm sorry to break it to you, but he's not going to protect free speech. He's only being a thorn on the side of these shit libs who hate him, as you know, and I don't like the guy, but I mean, they have made it their whole life to really go after this guy. And that's all they have. But to me, it's like, it's entertaining to watch. The blue check thing is already down. I think they took away.
Well, they stopped it. God bless you. During this morning's show, we found out breaking news that they already stopped it. Like they
stopped it
because they had the whole Chiquita thing. Like, right, you're supposed to be a parody account. Somebody faked a Chiquita account and was like, "We've cooed Brazil." It's been the first time we've couped a country since 1954, which is a nuanced, deep parody fucking joke because 1954, the UFC, the United Fruit Company, convinced the United States government to send the CIA in and take away Guatemala's sovereignty and implant the government because they had nationalized their fruit and their banana, and it was given back over to the UFC, which eventually became Dole and Chiquita. That's why it was so funny. But going back to what I tweeted, right? Not for nothing. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but that was a pretty informative, nuanced tweet, right? It's telling you the law. Okay, number one, automatic voter registration, which might sound good to a lot of people. I know a lot of shitlibs like, that's awesome. When you get your driver's license, you're registered to vote. The only problem is you get an automatic mass mail-out ballot. In other words, everybody on the voter rolls will get a ballot. That's the law. And third, ballot harvesting is legal in Nevada. So what did I say that wasn't true? That isn't law. You know what I'm saying? My opinion after was it's a recipe, but it's true. I'm in a position to make that. I'm a journalist. I went over there with you. I mean, it's just bullshit. That's an informative, nuanced tweet that should be protected, not labeled, not taken away from freaking likes, not taken away from the conversation. That's the bullshit thing. Fam, listen, I got a couple Super Rays. I have 3 clips I want to play. I want to play it on Rockfin only. So, guys, I want to read the Super Rays. It's just Maricopa. And, fam, if you want to come on over me, if you can, I just want to play some clips from Maricopa real quick. If not, because we still don't know who our governor is here in this state, in Nevada. We don't know who the governor is in Arizona. We don't know who the Secretary of State is in Nevada. We don't know who the Secretary of State is in Arizona. We got to wait for these. We don't know. We have 6 senators still outstanding, fam. 6. And it's 4 days after. I thought the machines were supposed to produce efficiency, but I don't want to talk about that. Let me read the Super Rays, and then we will go ahead. I got it already. Fam, this is over on Rumble. Look at that. How you like that? Boom, fam. We got Rumble rants right over here. First one says, this is Mad Wolf. How you doing? So a federal judge just struck down Biden's so-called student debt relief program. Ha! Now that the midterms are over and the dumbasses that voted for the Dems because of democracy, now they can get the crumbs taken away from them. See how the establishment works as a tag team? To fuck people over. And now the Dems got what they wanted, and now they'll go back to them promising to give you something. So I guess now you guys can ask the idiots that voted democracy, how does it feel to get the crumbs that the Dems gave you taken away before you can even enjoy them? But vote extra hard next time, LMO. Love you guys. Keep doing what you do to bring us the truth. That is Mad Wolf. He left $11 over on the Rumble Rants, fam. That's the Rumble Rants, and that's how we bring them to the table, fam. Anything to think about that with Joe Biden pulling the plug?
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. I mean, it sucks that for the people that, get fooled every time. But come on, how many times are you going to kick the football and miss?
Are you referring to Lucy?
Lucy and Charlie. Yeah.
Yeah, the football.
Right?
Charlie is the football. Yeah, Charlie kicks the football. So that's that. All right, so some more Super Rays too as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the Super Rays the same way I did over there, fam. But I think I don't think it's hysterical. I think it does suck because I mean, we know it's not a lot of money, but it was something, and anything helps right now. So it really does.
It's sad. It's just funny that it's sad that people keep getting tricked to believing in these people. Like, they're never going to give you things to help you out without taking something away.
Yeah, it sucks. So we have some Super Ray contributions. Guys, if you haven't got a chance to go over to Rockfin, please do so. That's our advertisement-free, free speech platform. We've been making a living off of Rockfin. You can see right over here down below, there are some Rockfin Ray tokens right here. Aram, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. As always, appreciate it on the couch. Let me go back to the beginning ones. Game.film, the first one in there. Game.film, thank you so much for the Super Ray contribution. Alan Nelson says, remember when DeSantis declared a Victims of Communism memorial holiday? Dude is the deep state to the nth degree. You're damn straight, right? He is. Anthony says, TGIF, Aram, we already thanked you. Black in the Empire, what's up, Daryl? When you coming back on the show, my man? Just feed me tacos and tell me I'm ready.
Okay, Daryl.
Alan Nelson, the last one. Elon was on the Twitter space and said there's a difference between freedom of speech and freedom of reach, basically agreeing that Twitter should be able to shadow ban, lower the volume on certain accounts or tweets. Not good at all. Guys, thank you for those Super Ray contributions. They do mean the world to us. You guys are really helping us out. Fam, do you have 5 minutes or 7 minutes to come on over to? Oh, we have another one over there. It says mass mail outs to every registry vote is BS. Absentee ballots that are requested are different. Example, our developed soldiers deserve to have their vote counted. That's right. Here's the thing what people don't realize, and we'll talk about this on Rockfin. Rockfin and Rumble only. If you're on Rumble, go over to Rumble. If you're on Rockfin, go over to Rockfin. Jilly Love, we haven't been putting any comments up. Jilly Love and Lucky Burrito hanging out, always watching our stuff. Fiorella killed it today. The RT on RT, it says, hold on, let me get that. I just missed that. Pasta on Crosstalk rocked it. Fam, we are RT superstars there. You as your story today, you rocked it. A lot of people have been talking about that. When we go over to Rumble and Rockfin only, I'll play a little clip of the Crosstalk, my last thing. Fam, I mentioned Dennis Kucinich was there, and I came out of the gate swinging, and I mentioned how all the crap started in the election integrity world and how our elections really went awry was when we had the Help America Vote Act, HAVA. That came out of George W. Bush. And what that bill did was pretty much kick a ton of monies from the national government to states to go and invest in electronical machines. So they got all this money if they would go and get these contracts. And that's where all these electronical companies that are owned by private equity, meaning you don't know who owns them. There's zombie companies of another zombie companies. We don't even know who's counting our votes. Those companies just spurred and spun and blew up during the HAVA Act. And Dennis Kucinich, unfortunately, voted yes on it. So I mentioned it, and the next time he came on in, he didn't kind of square up at me, but you can tell in his voice there was a little upset and disappointment. So we'll play a little clip from that, fam. Are you going to come on over with us?
Yeah, just not another hour.
No, it's going to literally be 15 minutes tops. Guys, do us a favor. I'm grabbing the Rockfin links now. Get on over Jilly Love or Lucky Burrito. If you guys can put these links, I'm putting the Rockfin link right now into the chats. Guys, go ahead and share that. Share our Rockfin, our Rumble. Our Rumble is pretty cool. We got tips on Rumble today. This is cool, guys. Love it. And guys, thank you to everybody. We got our Patreon money not too long ago. That's really helped paying the bills. These trips to go to the Global South are so expensive, guys. You don't even know, especially with fee over in Moscow. Even me to get here from the States, it's pricey. So when you guys help out the Combo Couch, you are helping independent media. We're getting out of YouTube. We're getting out of here in 5, in 4, in 3, in 2, in 1. I think.
До свидания, YouTube.
Bye-bye, YouTube. YouTube, you're out of there.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Peace.
Arrivederci.